Welcome to the Tech Support Guy Show, episode 31, Girls Like Music, recorded on February 28th, 2010.
And welcome to the Tech Support Guy Show. I'm Mike Cermak, known on the site as Tech Guy. With me is Brian Hansen. And Dan McCarthy.
Good afternoon.
How are you guys doing today?
Super.
Neato Nifty King.
So I want to warn people up front that this is kind of our first test at doing a video podcast. So if you're listening to just audio, that means you're missing out. Because you'll miss me trying to figure out what the heck I'm doing here, trying to operate all of this. And you can check on iTunes. Pretty soon you'll see the Tech Support Guy Show video format up there. You can search there, or you can just go to techguynews.com. We'll have a link up there to be able to get you directly into it. And in the meantime, let's just jump into some news. Where do you guys want to start? Dan, you want to take the Apple slave labor issue?
I told you I've only read the headline, but it appears that Apple has admitted to using Chinese children or kids to make iPods, iPhones, etc.
Right, and from what I'm hearing, it's or from what I'm reading, it's as young as 15 years old. So that's not quite as young as what I expected when I just had read the headline. And I don't know what the legal age of employment is in China, or in some areas if there is one. I don't know. Is this a really big deal? I mean, they uncovered 17 core violations of its policies, including 3 cases in which contractors hired underage workers last year.
Yeah, I don't know. We should be clear that it's not technically Apple employing 15-year-old workers in countries where the minimum age for employment is 16. It is Apple's suppliers, which, granted, they have a responsibility to make sure their suppliers are in compliance as well. But it is not Apple itself running factories with 15-year-olds.
Well, now we know why the iPad is so cheap.
Well, and all this, and the thing with this, I don't think anyone is amazed that this is happening, and it happens all the time with so many different manufacturers. It's not like Apple is alone in this.
No, not
now,
at all.
What is interesting about it is, unlike other manufacturers, whenever this comes up, Apple seems to have kind of jumped up and announced it on their own. Is that the impression you're getting on this?
Yes.
I mean, they're not trying to hide it, or...
Yeah, it's their own report. They did the research. They went into and kind of published this report called Supplier Responsibility, and they are learning to be proactive about this kind of a thing instead of letting the press get a hold of it and then have to react.
Right, which is wise. But it's kind of interesting that Apple would take that approach. That seems more like a Google approach. Apple's always so closed and, keeping to themselves.
Apple is typically like Toyota.
Yeah, right.
Trying to keep everything hush-hush, secret. And if a government entity asks them for something, they tell them to politely do physically impossible things with themselves.
So it is neat that, neat isn't the right word. It is good to see that Apple is, upfront about this. But like you said, if they didn't do it, it'd probably be some press that would get a hold of this and publish it. So that's what you got to do these days. I mean, there's no easy way to hide this. It would come out one way or another.
Right.
All right.
Well, and I wonder if there's something bigger at work, like they're going to start using this to use this report to start reshopping for suppliers. And then, of course, because they now no longer have kids working for them, their suppliers are going to get more expensive, and therefore Apple products can get more expensive. I don't know.
So this is just a big plot in order to increase the price of my iPod.
iPad.
That's my conspiracy theory.
All right. Well, we'll have to keep an eye out for that. I don't know if there's anything else to say on this one.
No, not really.
Yeah.
I don't really care. They found it. They stopped it. It was 17 cases. They make, 1 million iPods a year. Let's move on.
And surely, although they only found 17 cases, there's probably others going on. But at least they're trying to be proactive about it and find it and stop it. I mean, that's all you can ask for, really.
Yep.
All right. Good job, Apple. So, next story. Google Buzz. So you guys, have you both tried Google Buzz?
Once or twice.
So I saw it automatically show up on my panel on Gmail, and I was like, "Oh, what the heck's that?" So then I decided to play with it, but I didn't know anything about it. Wasn't really paying attention. There aren't a ton of people on my Gmail contacts list that are using it, so I kind of ignored it. And then I started seeing all of these news articles pop up about how the privacy concerns, et cetera, like all of these default options that nobody wanted them to be default.
Yeah, apparently that was a big deal. That got a lot of press right after Google Buzz was open to the public, and they were sharing information with other people in your Gmail contacts that you wouldn't necessarily want to share that information with.
Right.
So
I think the biggest.
So tell me about this though. Before we get into the privacy issues, what is the purpose of this? Is it just a Twitter replacement?
Ish. I think it's kind of a. We've talked about Google Wave before. It's kind of an introduction to Google Wave. Like once people get used to seeing all of their social networking, their Flickr, their Picasa, their Dig, their Delicious, their Twitter, all in one place, and have all of their friends organized, I think then used to looking at information this way.
I lost that last sentence there. So once you get everybody in there, you think people are just going to get used to that? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think it takes a little bit of an adaptation to get used to looking at things this way from all these different sources and seeing them in one place and actually using that one place as the way to stay connected, because that's what Wave is all about, right?
Right. Yeah, that's true. And I can't, we've talked about Wave before, and it's just not something that I see. I think that it's got its niche. You can use it for little projects, and I'm sure there's going to be many uses for it, but I can't see it being widespread public use that everyone's going to use every day. I think
Buzz was just a consolidation of social networking. That's nothing more. It was Google's attempt at consolidation of social networking. I think Brian's right. That is probably a launch pad for Wave. Well, you guys are already using Buzz. Now
we can pull you into Wave.
Right. But I think with all of the flack that Google's been getting from their Nexus 1 launch and then the Buzz launch, it's kind of a reversal of what everyone complained about with Google before. Google used to keep everything in beta for so long. I mean, Gmail forever was beta, and now they're just releasing their Android-based phone and now Buzz, and immediately it's clear that the products are somewhat untested.
Yeah, well, I don't know if untested is the problem with Buzz when it first came out so much. I haven't heard of any technical problems. It's just the privacy concerns, just that they, maybe were trying to go a step too far, more than what people were ready to accept right out of the box. And that's a little unusual, I think, for Google. I think in the past, Google has been pretty good about those things, about privacy and about, they always say that they, respect your privacy and so on. And in the past, I think they've been pretty good about that. It's been very upfront about when they're going to use your information and for what. And they have been using your information a lot more than any other company. Remember when Gmail first came out and it was a big deal that they were going to be reading your emails in order to put ads on there that are relevant to what the content of your emails. But they were very upfront about that. They were like, this is the deal. We're going to give you, awesome, free, tons of space, and we're going to put ads on there that are relevant to what you're looking at. And no one cares now. No one bats an eye at that anymore.
That's because the ads are actually very relevant. They're not the typical spam flashing your face, taking over your screen, annoying ads. Right, exactly. They're actually relevant ads. We've talked about this before. I don't mind seeing ads. Show me ads that are relevant to what I want to see.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. I agree. And I think that's the way most people feel about it. If they're going to have to see ads or pay for the content, and they'd rather see relevant ads if they're going to see any. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I can't tell you how many hundreds of emails I used to write on Hotmail about how unsatisfied I was with the size of my penis. And now, Google ads have come in and shown me 90,000 different sources from all kinds of different countries with all kinds of various degrees in English on where I can correct that problem. So yeah, I'm very happy with Google's advertising and the relevancy of the emails. That's good.
Yeah, I think the same thing will happen with Buzz. Once they get over this little speed bump of people having trouble with the privacy, I think they addressed it very quickly and appropriately. I haven't heard any complaints since then.
Right.
But I don't know if that's enough to get it to catch on. I don't think it was enough to hold it back. I think people are over it.
I don't know either. I personally, I see that it shows me, I have one or two new things in Buzz maybe once or twice a day. I click on it and I'm like, oh, okay, my friend Rami posted something to Twitter or posted something to Flickr. I'm like, I don't really give a crap. There's a reason I don't follow Rami on these other sites is because I don't really follow Rami. But just because he's in my contact list, uses Gmail, and now uses Buzz, therefore I get notified about everything he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think I've posted two things to Buzz. The first one was, what is all the buzz about?
Uh-huh.
And the second one, I don't even remember what the second one was.
And no, you posted, oh no, the other one was a Twitter feed, my mistake. Your second one was, all right, ready for the weekend.
That's pretty much it. And that was the last one done. I don't care for it. I use it, I'm sure I'll use it even less than I use Twitter.
And that's not very often.
Yes, I agree. I will not use it for anything. The only thing that I've been doing any decent job of keeping up with lately is Twitter. I haven't been on Facebook in months.
I just realized yesterday I hadn't sent a tweet from my personal account for 2 weeks. That's pretty long. I was like, wow.
That is pretty long. Did somebody nudge you, or did you just realize that?
No, I'd sent out a tweet saying, I haven't sent out a tweet in 2 weeks.
Oh.
It was a little bit more than that, but that was in it.
Captain Obvious.
But anyhow, so yeah, I don't know. It's a neat idea to consolidate all of these different social networking things. So I can go into Buzz here once I sign up for it, and I can link other sites into it and be able to see Twitter feeds and Facebook feeds and all of that in one place. That's
yeah. I can see some value in it. There's not critical mass yet, I guess.
Well, they were talking about how Twitter was trying to make a corporate product, if you will, where sales teams and things like that would use Twitter to keep in touch with each other, send messages, things like that. I could see Buzz being used if you're using Google to host all of your mail, your calendar, and all of that. And some companies are doing that. They're actually using Google to host their email and all of that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Google Apps is really starting to pick up where companies, and even actually at my university I'm taking some classes at, they do a lot of their online sharing of documents and homework and things like that. It's a real in-person class, but all of the online stuff is done through Google Docs or Google Apps, which thought that was a good use of it instead of using Blackboard or some other software specifically written for
Yeah,
I think that's what Wave is supposed to be.
Right, and I think Buzz will get there, Wave will get there, but so I believe it's a great tool for collaboration and being productive, but it's not. It has not yet become a new channel through which I consume information. You know what I mean?
Good point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if that's going to change, real quick or overnight either. Right. I mean, it's, but they had to get into it, right? I mean, Google had to make this jump. Otherwise, they're being taken over by Facebook and Twitter and all these other social networking sites. They need to jump in there and have a social networking site of their own. It's almost a Me Too kind of thing. It's almost like what Microsoft would do to a Google product.
Yeah. Well, so it's weird. Like, it doesn't feel to me like it's a full-blown social networking site, right? It's an aggregation of all your other social networking sites. And, oh, by the way, you can add your own, new Google Buzz branded input stream into that.
Right.
But it's basically just repackaging all the stuff you currently have.
It's a limited social networking site. So it's people that you've already have some active communication with. I mean, presumably you're active if they're in your email contacts. Right. You've got some kind of communication path already open with them. Unlike the social networking sites where you can be searched for, and I mean, that's what they were designed for. They were designed for people to find you, add you as a friend, and have this huge popularity contest and all of that. With Google's Buzz, I mean, these are people that you have, at least seemingly, said you want to communicate with regularly.
Yeah, and that's actually the big privacy concern that people started out with, is that you had to opt out of letting Buzz show the entire world your entire contact list.
Right.
Google's spokesperson came back and said, well, we thought that the public sharing of your profile contacts was a great way to suggest that people expand their networks.
Well,
but they didn't make the opt-out process in case you had people on your email list that you didn't want other people to know about, that kind of thing.
Right, which seems like such an obvious thing. I mean, they had to have had a discussion about that, and in order to get the proper, what do I want to call it? Enough people using Google Buzz to make it worthwhile. That's a good way of doing it. Just automatically have you join into it.
Sure.
So anyhow. So is it something you guys see yourselves using on a daily or a weekly or a monthly basis, or are you going to wait for it to get that critical mass?
I have no plans to use it.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
Me too. It doesn't really attract me, and I'm not a big social network person anyway. I mean, I jump into Facebook every week maybe, and Twitter I use on a more regular basis. I probably check into Twitter on a daily basis, certainly. But I don't know. And the other thing is that I suspect that Google Buzz type apps will be coming out soon, and that might make a difference. Because right now, how do you check your Twitter feeds? It's
on Twitter.
Right. On Twitter's website? Is that what you do?
Yeah.
Oh. Most of the time, what I do is just use an app that's on my phone to be able to look at it. Very infrequently do I check online.
In fact, I think that there are people like the app developers are making more money off of Twitter than Twitter is making off of Twitter.
Well, that's true. Twitter really isn't making much of anything, are they?
I don't think so. Not last I heard.
All right. Well, so moving on about Google, I guess they're in a little bit of trouble overseas. just a tad. I tell you, I kind of feel bad for Google. It seems like they keep getting a tough time over there, no matter what they're trying to do. Things that people wouldn't bat an eye at over here in the U.S., they're getting into lawsuits and major issues over there.
Yeah, the Italy thing with them getting in trouble because somebody was being picked on and it was recorded and posted on YouTube.
That's right.
That's complete crap.
So the story
that is the most absurd. Yeah, go ahead.
I need to get the story in front of me here to be able to speak to it directly, because I hate to try and say something turns out to be wrong. But so apparently there was this video on Google's video site. Before Google bought YouTube, they had their own video sharing site that wasn't all that popular, but someone posted a video of, I think it was a handicapped kid, wasn't it? Wasn't there something?
Yes, I don't know if it was, mentally handicapped or.
It seems to me it was, but I'll have to find the article to see exactly what it was. But so they posted this video of them, I don't know if they were throwing stuff at him and just, whatever, just harassing him. And it was up on the site for 2 months. And then Google took it down whenever they were notified by the police. And they took it down in 2 hours once they were notified. But even so, I guess it's the government of Italy that's actually did the case, but they lost. I mean, Google lost. They were convicted. And 3 specific executives of Google were convicted and found guilty of having this up there.
Yeah.
I thought I read something different, that they were asked, and 2 months after they were asked, they took it down. But
so here's what I've got from the Salt Lake Tribune. So you can take it with a grain of salt.
A grain of salt, I get it.
Yeah. The case revolves around a video uploaded to Google Video in 2006 showing an autistic boy in Turin being pummeled and insulted by teenage bullies at school. It drew 5,500 views. Okay, so that's like everybody in the school plus 2 people they know.
Right.
In the 2 months. So in 2 months before Google Italy pulled it down 2 hours after being notified by police. The boy's father in an advocacy group for people with Down syndrome, okay, I thought he was autistic. That's different than Down syndrome, complained that the video violated privacy protection laws. So, but Google basically is maintaining that the ruling, them being found guilty, contradicts a European Union directive on electronic commerce that gives service providers, like Google, safe harbor from liability for the content they post.
Right, which makes sense. I mean, as long as they are, prompt at removing it once it's pointed out to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think 2 hours is reasonable.
Certainly seems like it to me.
Right?
Yeah.
So this is pretty strange, and what I had heard is that it sets a pretty dangerous precedence. That
Yes.
if providers like Google and Yahoo and whoever can be held that liable for anything that's put up on their site, that's kind of scary. I mean, that's really going to cut down on. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. It can't be held up. And what's interesting is 3 specific executives were found guilty, right? I mean, it wasn't like the Google was found guilty.
You'll probably find out in a little bit that it was all political, that they were being targeted. Those 3 specific executives were being targeted for something totally different. And it's because they said no to something about something else going on. This doesn't sound like a legitimate concern. It doesn't. It doesn't sound legitimate at all. I mean, we've got the EU law, and then we've just got common sense.
Yeah. So, because where does this stop, right? So now I can go sue I can sue Google because they posted it. I can sue Comcast because they provided the pipe for me to consume it. Right. I can sue the video camera company because they created a video camera that, I mean, literally.
It sounds more like
a slippery slope. Like, I don't know how more slippery it could get.
Sounds more like a lawsuit that would happen in America, where we just sue everybody for everything, right?
For sure.
How's that going on over in Italy?
I don't.
So it says here that the Italian judge Oscar Magi sentenced the executives to a 6-month prison sentence, but cleared them of defamation charges. No jail time is expected, however, since any sentence of less than 3 years is typically commuted in Italy for those without a criminal record. But they were, So these 3 executives were actually sentenced to 6 months in prison, which, clearly, or it's very unlikely that they'll serve. But yeah, that seems a little crazy. Just a little.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Poor Google.
I feel a little bad for them.
I do. Honestly, I mean, that's completely. It seems completely unreasonable. I mean, just because they're a giant company is why this.
Yeah, well, they have the deepest pockets,
right? So anyhow, so what about their Google Street View? They're in trouble over that again. Now, they've had some trouble with that even over here in the U.S. I remember, I don't know if it was a year ago, they drove through a military base in the U.S., which apparently the military said that maybe that wasn't such a great idea to have all of that online. And they said that you could see guard placements and entrances and emergency exits and all this other stuff. And for some reason, the government didn't want that up there. And part of the question was, why did the guards let them on the base? It was supposed to be a secure base, and for some reason they got in. But so they've had their share of trouble. But they try to do a good job, especially overseas, where the privacy thing's taken a little bit more seriously than it is here. They do the blurring of the faces and license plates and all of that. I haven't got a problem with it personally because you're out in public. It's not like they're using X-ray technology to peep into buildings or super zooms or anything that you couldn't see standing on the street anyway. Like you should have no expectation of privacy if you're standing on the street. I really don't get these lawsuits. So that's just my 2 cents.
This would mean that nobody should ever be allowed to take pictures on vacation ever again unless they are the only people in the shot,
or unless you get approval from everyone who's in the picture to have their picture taken.
Sign a release.
Well, people could say that that's different because it's not a commercial use. But out in public, it's my understanding that if you're out in public, you can have your picture taken and it can be used commercial. I mean, not of you, but of you happening to be in the background,
Right. Well, but all it would take is some, Matthew McConaughey to take a picture of himself running naked on the beach again. And I'm in the background and he posts that or uses that, sells that photo to People Magazine or Entertainment Weekly or whatever the crap. And then I'm like, hey, Matthew McConaughey, I'm in that picture, buddy. You just made $1 million deal off of that.
Hook me up.
Kick a little 5% back my way just because I'm in the back looking fat. I don't get it. This makes me sick.
So it was in the UK is where they've had some recent trouble, and I'm going to try and find the article to post that in the show notes. But there was even a town in the UK where they created a human chain to prevent the Google truck from coming in and taking pictures of their little village.
Yeah, it looks like in April 2009, a group of British villagers formed a human chain to turn away a car shooting images for Street View.
Yeah, and what I mean, what's up with that? Why would you? What are they trying to prevent? What is the harm of having the pictures of the town up there?
I think it's Andy Warhol that said in the future everyone will get their 15 minutes of fame.
Yep.
I think that's probably about it. Google is a big company. If you try to prohibit Google from doing something by protesting, then you get your 15 minutes of fame.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know if that's it. I can't believe that all these people in this little town got together to block this truck. And I think that there's something else going on. They're afraid of something.
Maybe they're growing opium or something.
It's
Yeah, no, there's probably some sort of activity that somebody on the city council is afraid of being discovered just through a random snapshot. Like imagine you're the mayor of, let's say, Baltimore, and Google Street View rolls through to get an update of Baltimore, and on a 7-block radius of Google Street View, you see 37 drug deals go down. Like, you're not going to get reelected. So you're going to stop Google if you can.
If that were true, the mayor of Philly would never be reelected, because Philly has the largest open air market for heroin on the East Coast, where the cops will sit on the corner and watch drug deals go down and do nothing about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm a big fan of the old HBO series The Wire, so there are reasons.
The Wire's great.
Yeah, it was a great show, and it was set in Baltimore, so I thought they were the biggest open air anything market.
Nope, Philly.
Really? That's impressive.
Dan has brought up that point a couple of times. So I'm almost a little suspicious about his knowledge of the open air market in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably my association with my father, the addictions counselor.
Oh, well, that's a good excuse.
Oh, that's a likely excuse.
Mm-hmm. Is that what they call the drug dealers these days?
Notice I'm wearing long sleeves here, guys.
You're always wearing long sleeves.
And we never really see your face, Dan. We just see your cap and your guitar. I'm getting a little suspicious. Just kidding around. Yeah, so apparently Switzerland is suing Google over Street View, calling for Google to erase images of walled gardens and private streets. In April 2009, yeah, you said this, British villagers formed a human chain. I don't know. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I can almost understand the walled gardens. All right, if they're peeking over the garden, over the walls, that's one thing.
No, they're not. They're in a van. That's driving the van down the middle of the street.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, I mean, really, honestly, if they're worried about that, the satellite images are much more of an issue for privacy than what the truck videos are. Yep. From the satellite, you can see things that the average person wouldn't be able to see.
Right.
So why is that? And why are they not suing them over the satellite images and Bing and everybody else for that matter?
Right.
Those have been around.
Satellite images routinely capture naked sunbathers.
They do, as a matter of fact. There's sites dedicated to finding strange things on satellite photos.
Really? I'm going to have to look up that one.
Yeah, I know it's shocking that kind of thing would exist on the internet. But
yeah. Do you guys ever see Avenue Q? There's a song in Avenue Q called "The Internet Is for Porn." It's pretty funny, but I always think about that.
I really wanted to see Avenue Q last time we were up in New York City, and we didn't get to do it. Actually, I'll have to.
It's a bummer. It's a great show. Great show. Anyway,
all right. What else is going on? How about iTunes?
Oh, yeah. So iTunes hit its 10 billionth song download on Friday, the 26th. Apparently, they decided to give away $10,000 to the person who downloaded the 10 billionth song. So a 71-year-old consumer, 71-year-old consumer got on iTunes, downloaded a Johnny Cash song.
Right on. You got to love Johnny Cash. Which song? Is that what you said?
Yeah, which song?
I do not know yet. I will find out. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool.
Just to be clear, I believe it's 10,000 iTunes dollars. So it's $10,000 to be spent in the iTunes store so that you can get, $10,000 worth of free music videos. And
it it was 10 billionth download according to this, and it was Louis Sulzer, a 71-year-old from Georgia, bought the Man in Black's "Guess Things Happen That Way" on Thursday. So It was 10 billionth download from iTunes. Well done, Louis.
Well, that's I didn't even know they had that going on.
Me neither.
It's
kind of crazy.
That's neat. Very generous.
Yeah.
So iTunes was launched in 2003. You want to guess what the top downloaded iTunes song of all time is? No fair looking it up, Ryan. Remember, I got video now. I'm watching you.
I'm afraid it's going to be something disgusting.
No, it's "I Got a Feeling" by Black Eyed Peas. Was that the theme song for CES this year? Was that the one they kept playing all the time?
Yes, I think it was. Oh,
number two. Go ahead.
They've even used that a lot in some of the corporate meetings I've been in lately. It's
in
all
corporate
over
meetings.
The place.
That's disgusting.
Yeah. Try to get you pumped up for the.
Yeah, exactly. Like it gets the blood flowing or whatever. Ugh.
Oh, that's too funny. So number two, one that I guess they don't use in the corporate meetings is "Poker Face" by Lady Gaga.
Wow.
And number three is also Black Eyed Peas with "Boom Boom Pow." And then number four is finally a decent song, Jason Mraz, "I'm Yours."
Really?
Yeah.
Decent.
I like Jason Mraz, actually. So
I'm
not a big fan of Lady Gaga, and Black Eyed Peas is all right. But the thing with their songs is the first time, I was talking to my wife about this the other day, and she was telling me that the first time she hears any of their new songs, she hates them. They're just so repetitive and dumb. And then, after like the fifth time, she's jamming to them. And
yeah. They get in your blood.
On you.
They
it's
figured
that
out
repetition.
They figured out some like algorithm to get their songs lodged in your brain, and then you can't stop. I'm the same way with Lady Gaga. Actually, I don't really know most of her stuff, but my wife recently bought the album, so I've been listening to it a lot. Now I know them all, and I wake up singing one of several every day. Like they're stuck in my head.
She, more than anything, she scares me just looking at her.
Really?
She's always dressed crazy, and
she is. But she's a very. Have you ever listened to any interviews with her?
No, I never have.
Yeah, so she's done an interview with Barbara Walters and Oprah. She's a very well-spoken, very kind of down-to-earth. Well, that's definitely the wrong phrase.
She's articulate.
Gaga. Yes, that's better. She's articulate, more articulate than I am, and she just has a sense about her that she's just very confident and kind of wants to challenge people. But she's not using guerrilla warfare or scare tactics to do that. She's just using her fashion sense and her ability to express herself visually and musically to do it. So it's kind of cool.
Well, she made the list on here again. She's number 6 with "Just Dance." And I was just looking to see if she's in. It's interesting to note on these that, and number 24 of the, however many songs iTunes sells, since 2003, the number 24th top downloaded song is "Fireflies" by Owl City.
Who?
Now, Owl City, Fireflies. I don't know if you know that one. Oh, "Bad Romance" is on here also, another Lady Gaga. So what's interesting about this when I'm looking through it is that, it is kind of sad, but the other thing is that most of these songs are very, very recent.
Yes.
I think that speaks to the number of people using iTunes over time. I mean, in 2003, the top songs may have been downloaded however many times, but now there's a lot more people using it.
Exactly.
And that's really interesting to see that if you think about that, over the last 7 years, the number one song is "I Got a Feeling" by Black Eyed Peas. When did that even come out? I thought that it would be some other record that's been out for years.
Classic.
Beatles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Beatles, Michael Jackson, something. But
here's a question though. Think about the mix of it. The people that are going to go buy Elvis or going to buy Frank Sinatra or whomever, they're going to buy the entire album. I wonder if the statistics you're looking at are top downloaded single song.
It is called top downloaded iTunes songs of all time since launch in 2003. So you might be right. That's a good point.
Yeah, because I don't know anybody who owns an entire Black Eyed Peas album.
Yes.
But,
yeah, and the other ones on here, you got Taylor Swift, you got.
My God!
Stop it! Stop reading.
What is
but
wrong,
you know what?
America?
What's surprising to me is like, okay, Gaga, Black Eyed Peas, totally mainstream, big name, concert ticket selling, merchandise selling people. And then somehow number 4, Jason Mraz.
Right.
Like, I don't see that guy anywhere. Ever.
He is. You're right. He's not up in front like everyone else is, and maybe that's part of the reason. But he's got a strong following. I mean, he's got a dedicated fan base.
Yeah, that was a surprise to me to find him at number 4 on the list.
I think that's proof positive that teenage girls use iTunes the most.
Hey, are you calling me a teenager? Oh, well, for Jason Mraz, I'm big into Jason Mraz. I'm not so sure about these other ones. These crazy kids and their music today. Give me my Johnny Cash, right?
Right?
Yeah.
And I could have won $10,000.
Funny story about kids and Lady Gaga. My wife and I were at a birthday party for a 2-year-old last weekend, and the parents also have a 4-year-old son. And so, my wife likes Lady Gaga, and this coworker of hers that has the kids, they're in Vanpool together. So they know each other's tastes in music, and my wife likes Gaga, and Damon, the parent of these kids, knows that. So when I first meet Brent, the 4-year-old, first thing he says is, "Renee, I like Lady Gaga." Like, that's the first thing out of his mouth. His dad's like, "Damon, Brent, didn't you have something you wanted to tell Renee?" He's like, "Oh, I like Lady Gaga." And I just burned a copy of her album for him this morning at Damon's request. So just funny. He's 4. He likes Lady Gaga.
See,
he doesn't like Poker Face. He likes the other one that you said was top on the list, not Just Dance, but Paparazzi. That's the one. Paparazzi's his favorite song.
What else was on here? Bad Romance. I don't know that one by Lady Gaga. And I thought there was another Lady Gaga on here. Just Dance. Yeah,
that's sad. That's so sad. There's so much good music out there, and
yeah.
You guys hear that? The baby was just crying. Sorry.
Oh no, we didn't hear that.
How is she?
Fantastic. She's a doll.
Good.
She doesn't cry much except when she's hungry. Has to poop.
Sounds like Brian.
Why doesn't she just poop? She's got diapers. Why does she cry about it?
Sometimes that gas is a little bit tough to deal with, I guess.
I guess so.
All right, we call her Pip for poop in progress because it takes her quite a while.
That's funny.
Oh. That's great. Congratulations again.
Yeah, congratulations. In person, congratulations.
Almost in person.
Oh, well, yeah. I just realized that statement was a lot.
Sorry, I had to point it out. I didn't. All right, great. Any other stories you guys want to touch on? Anyone in the chat room have anything else that we should have pointed out that is going on that's interesting right now? I don't know if there's nothing else really caught my attention.
Well, I did like our little nugget of information, and I did some research. You said there are 6,200 Windows XP computers running the entire Winter Olympics.
Sounds like something I would have said. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you go to Vancouver2010.com/Olympic-athletes, it will show you that there is a list of 2,622 athletes at the Olympics. So that means that there's about 2.4 computers for every athlete at the Olympics.
Did you just do that 2.4 in your head?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Holy crap. Like, really?
Right?
Why does it take 6,200 freaking...
Okay, so do the math real quick. How many computers is that per viewer?
Per viewer?
That's true.
What do you mean?
How many people are watching the Olympics compared to how many people are actually competing in it? I mean, the computers aren't there for
a variety of things. So
yeah, the computers aren't all there.
Yeah,
for
but they're still only creating one feed.
It's interesting though that they're all running XP, not server, not Windows 2000, not server 2003. Server 2007, 2008, whatever it is now.
2008, right.
Well, I wonder if that's
Why
even a
not
separate
server?
alley.
Well, I'm sure that they do have plenty of I would think that they would have plenty of servers there as well. But
Why XP?
Why not? What else would they be running on the 6200 machines? I mean, surely you wouldn't need each one to be a server because, it's probably, and I don't know, I haven't read I don't know if they have the details up for what each of those machines do, but it probably is the case that, one of those machines is dedicated to the unit that watches whenever someone crosses the line at the race, and another unit is probably, they don't need it to be a server OS, they just need it to be running.
I'd probably run Linux on all of them.
Yeah, I know you would. But see, the problem is that they need
worry.
hardware to plug into these things. They need it to actually communicate with other computers and with...
Summer Olympics in Atlanta, they were running Linux.
I was trying to get you fired up. You didn't get fired up at all. That was very disappointing.
I'm mellowing out in my old age.
Is that what it is? Because you have a kid now? You're not getting any sleep at night, and you're just, don't care about the OS
That's
wars
pretty much
anymore.
it. Yeah.
Priorities.
Yeah. Well, I do have Windows File now too, so.
That's true. That was shocking. I don't know if you knew this, Brian, but Dan bought a new domain name.
Really?
Yes. WindowsFile.org.
Yep.
Instead of Linux File, everyone knows that Dan is known on the site as Linux File and owns linuxfile.org, where he has some articles and tips and so on about using Linux. And now he has Windows File. What is that all about, Dan?
Yeah.
I love Windows 7.
They converted you with Windows 7.
Windows 7 rocks. Windows 7 has usability features that they just rock. Well, my friend Jake, he's been on the podcast with us before. He put it nicely. Basically, I'm old and I'm lazy, and Windows does a lot of thinking for me. So
do you think
I let Windows do the thinking for me?
Do you think Linux is... Go ahead.
Do I think Linux is what?
Is going to catch up with that? Are they going to have a user interface experience like Windows 7?
Eventually, I think it's not going to matter. The user interface is going to be handled by web app developers, so it's not going to be Windows versus Linux anymore.
It's all going to be in the cloud.
That's right. It's going to be who can develop the best interface using whatever technology is available for the internet.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I don't know.
How I feel probably be run by Google.
Yeah, apparently. Unless the EU takes them down first.
Right.
So you, Curl, in the chat, just asked who the computer hoster of choice is and suggested it was IBM. No, actually, there are 6,000 Acer PCs at the Olympics that Acer delivered, and they are the ones running the XP system to make the Olympics work.
Run by Acer, huh?
Yeah, good news for that Taiwanese company.
I hope they're not using any child labor.
Let's hope not. Anyway, I just thought that was kind of interesting that there's 2.4 PCs at the Olympics for every athlete that's there. Number of viewers, that doesn't correlate at all to me. All those computers should just be creating, at most a dozen streams, right? For the 12 different
And it would be interesting to know what else it's being used for. Surely that's not just for video, but, like I said, scorekeeping and, all of that is, and even communication between different areas. I'd be interested to read more details about what they're being used for, why they need that many machines to begin with.
Yeah. I would be interested.
Not that I doubt that they need it. Don't get me. Yeah, don't misunderstand. But I mean, it is a huge freaking event. I can't even imagine what goes on behind the scenes there. It's kind of interesting.
Statistics on the number of blue screens of death.
Well, I did read the article I posted in the chat from CNET said that on Tuesday, which I guess was last Tuesday, the 25th. There were only a handful of trouble tickets, or a couple is actually the word that gets used. And apparently one of those was because one of the Olympics workers got excited during an Olympic event and stood up to cheer and spilled soup all over her laptop. But the laptop continued to work after that. Acer offered to replace it, and she said, no, if it's good enough to survive a soup attack, I don't really want to get rid of it. So
that's pretty funny. You'd never think about, or I would never think about the logistics of an event like that, and that they would have to have IT staff and a whole IT, a whole IT department for that. It's 6,200 freaking machines. I mean, that's bigger than what most corporations would have.
Oh yeah,
that's
it's bigger than my corporation for sure.
I mean, that's a lot. I can't even imagine.
For 3 weeks of games are in the snow.
So what do they do with those?
Which include things like curling. Like, what the crap?
Everyone loves
that
curling.
That is sweeping on ice. That's not a sport.
Well, and speaking of curling, Ucurl in the chat room suggests that some of the computers might also be used for weather monitoring.
Ah.
I mean, that's a possibility. That's important, especially with these outdoor events.
Yeah, well, I don't know why you wouldn't just rely on the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to tell you that.
Well, right? Yeah, but how are they going to tell you that? You might be looking at their website on your Windows XP computer.
Right, the same Windows XP computer that's running video feeds from camera number 36 on the downhill jump. I don't know. It doesn't seem like you have to have... I mean, that's the point of multitasking, right?
Well, and a lot of those computers are probably redundancies, right? I mean, they can't.
Well, it's a well-known fact that XP does not actually multitask. Sorry.
Okay. Wait, this is from Windows File? I don't understand. What
the heck?
It should be Windows 7 File, not Windows.
It should be Windows 7 File, but we've had that discussion, Mike.
Windows 7 or above, huh?
Right.
Windows 7 or higher file. Man. So, but what I was going to say is there's got to be a lot of redundancy in this as well, because, you can't afford to lose a score or to have a camera fail or, whatever with the Olympics. That would just be unacceptable. So I wonder in many cases if some of these computers aren't really being utilized at all and are just there as a safety net.
Right.
All right, good enough. Anything else you want to mention? Do you have anything else, Brian? That was good.
No, I'm set.
Sweet. Well, I guess that's going to wrap it up for us today then. Our next podcast is going to be on Sunday, March 21st at noon Eastern Time.
Everybody applaud for Mikey remembering that.
Yay!
I totally remembered. I wasn't looking at my teleprompter over here at all. Yeah, so again, Sunday, March 21st, that's in like 3 weeks at noon Eastern. And again, if you want to join us live, watch the video as we try to create this show, be sure to go to techguynews.com at that time, and you can join in and watch us as a handful of people are right now in the chat room. And yeah, check that out then. In the meantime, subscribe to us on iTunes. Just search for Tech Support Guy. You can subscribe to one of 3 different formats in there. We've got the audio-only format, the large video format, and the small video format, depending on exactly what you want and how much space you want us to take up. So be sure to check that out as well. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for jumping in again. Brian, you want to give folks your contact information and such?
No.
All right, then. Moving right along. How about...
you guys can find me on Twitter at Brian M. Hansen. That's M as in Michael. Or find me online at brianmhansen.com. And around the Tech Guy forums, I'm known as Handy9, HANDEE9.
Great. Yeah, I was going to say we ought to give people the Google Buzz as well, right? But maybe not so much. I'm just kidding. How about Dan? How can people find out more about what you're up to, like, Windows File?
Well, they can check windowsfile.com, .net, or .org, or they can follow me on Twitter. I am Linux File, and I am Linux File on the Tech Guy website, and that's LINUXPHILE.
Great. And thanks again, fellas, for joining me again, and we'll see everybody here in a couple of weeks. All right, done. Now I got to write a note over here so whenever I'm talking, I remember what it was. Sunday, March, what day was it? I already forgot. First.
21st.
Do you mind if I just step out? Maybe you guys can just do the show without me. I'm just having one of those days.
I gotta make a note of it over here so when I'm talking later, I'll remember.
Hey, it's later.
What? Sunday, March. What was it?
It's later.
Seriously, a 4-second you have a 4-second flash memory. That's what that means.
Well, it's like a goldfish. I just
Mike the goldfish.
Oh man.